What is up, guys? Welcome to episode 6 of This is Boston Baseball podcast, brought to you by B Clutch Sportswear. We got another special show for you guys tonight. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. We got Orazio Azzarello on and Rob Zorian. Orazio is currently the commissioner of the 28-plus BMBL. He's the Medford High School coach. He wears a whole lot of hats with Boston baseball. And then we got Rob Zorian of Zorian Bat Company. He's also ICL Hall of Famer of the Intercity League. And Orazio is also on the board of the Intercity League. My co-host tonight, of course, Omar Ortiz. And we got Matt Giblin, a good buddy of mine who has been a member of the BMBL for over 20 years. He's an umpire going into his third year this year, coming up 2025. And before I bring them in, I just wanted to make one note that we are now on YouTube. This is Boston Baseball Podcast. Check us out on YouTube. We're going live on both Facebook and YouTube every Sunday, 8 o'clock. So be sure to subscribe and like our channel over on YouTube. Allow me to introduce my co-hosts. Oh, did we lose Omar? There he is. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
What's going on, fellas?
Episode 6. We made it.
We did it.
So I accidentally clicked on a text message from Billy Rolls. I forgot to put my phone on silent mode, and it blew up the whole feed. So my apologies, everybody, for the technical difficulties.
Hey, holding accountability goes a long way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. But Gib, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here with you guys. We've known each other, Omar. We played against each other for years. I'm just happy to add a little something, hopefully, in the show.
Well, it's exciting to have you, my man. Welcome aboard. All advice I could give is be yourself and have fun with it.
With guests like this, shouldn't be a problem.
I hear that.
So obviously, Rob has his own bat company, and we were talking earlier about the importance of having the right bat when you step up to the plate. So I'm curious, Gib, if you want to go first, how important is it for you to have like the right bat when you're coming up to the plate?
I think you're fooling yourself if, like, you say you're not superstitious. For me, it just starts way before game time. It starts in the off season, picking out bats, feeling what feels right. I mean, that's the time you play with things and feel like what's working for you and what's not. Because once the season goes, like I try to stick with one bat. I mean, it's the tools to the trade. Like if you're not comfortable with going up to the bat with something solid in your hands that you feel like you can do damage with, then you're not going to be able to beat the pitcher out there. So I think my personal history with bats and my relationship with them has certainly changed over the years. I think I treat my bats better than I probably treat my wife. She'd always say, but what?
She's not watching.
Don't leave them in the car, in the winter. You bring them in, you treat them just as good as you would any of your other equipment.
Yeah, I think personally, like bats, that's where the confidence level starts at. If you feel confident with your bat in the hand, at least for me, I'm a creature of habit especially when it comes to baseball. I've used the same model for the last 7, 8 years, and when I use someone else's bat and I'm making out, the first thing I make, excuse the bat. That's not my bat. I don't feel comfortable with the bat. But that's a lot of ball players are like that, and I think a bat is an underrated part of the game that shouldn't be taken for granted. The right bat will give you the right confidence to be a good hitter. Think about that. That's legit. That's not a myth. That's real. If you feel confident with the bat in your hand, you won't feel confident at that box. But if you don't feel confident using someone else's bat, it's like you're losing what you're used to, And one thing I want to talk to Rob about is that I get a lot of custom bats. Like my company that I use is Victus, and every time I get a shipment, it's a different feel. And I don't like that because I'm used to the one I want. So sometimes you're better off going to a retail store and checking the handle, see if it fits good, because how about being comfortable and confident when you're at the box, and you order a bat and you expect the handle to be a certain way, the barrels to be a certain way, and you get it is completely different. It's a bummer. My guys would tell you, I'll order 6 bats and I'll only use one. So I want to ask him about that. Maybe it's just because supposedly I don't know how they make the bats, but isn't it by measurement? So shouldn't all the bats come the same? Maybe is it the wood?
So, quick little story. When me and D first started playing for the Tigers, I started getting my bats made by this guy named Tim Kaz. Used to come up to Burlington, and he had his own little shop in his garage. And I'll tell you what, he had been making bats for 10, 15 years, and he was putting out some great bats. And I go up there and I put it in my hands and say, "Hey, want a thinner handle or want a bigger barrel or I need a good 38, I'm a 30 ouncer, and that was 20 years ago. Another great question that I'd like to ask Rob too is that price increase because we used to be able to buy a nice maple, wooden bat, $55. Like you're not gonna find a good quality. You're not gonna if you want good quality lumber, you're not gonna pay $55. That's just fact. That's just the way of life now. So, but that's also a big part of, playing, amateur baseball too, is that cost that it's associated with us playing the game that we love, and what you're willing to at least put into it. So
Especially if you break a lot of bats over the season. When someone breaks a bat, the first thing someone said, "Oh, that's a $200."
yeah,
You know,
very good point. Yeah.
that's painful.
Or die the warrior.
Yeah, you got a hit, but you still lost $200. God lord. Oh man, but like you said, it comes with the territory. Everything in life now is expensive. But remember, we used to buy with $1. You can't even get anything with $1 now. It's just the way of life, and I think the good thing about the Zorian bags is that they're quality professional wood. So you're getting a real top quality wood, and maybe that's what the price increase is, but he's always had that quality. But it goes back to what we were talking about. Everything else now is expensive. And take it from me that I'm a business owner myself. I understand like everything, the smallest thing is like triple price, and when is it gonna stop? Because you also don't want to get it to a price point to your clients and your customers that they can't afford it. And but
Yeah, you're
uh,
pricing people out.
yeah, you're pricing people out. But at the end of the day, you have to also look what's out there and compete what's out there. That's that's the range right now for a good bat. 210, 225. And if you want to get custom or you want to get a bomb bat from a bomb bat composite, you're paying $360.
Like
So
you said, it could break your first at bat. Like,
it could break your first at bat, bro. Like imagine that.
but and I think there's a lot more companies coming around. Like a lot more people are starting their own bat company. But Rob has been around since 2003, I believe. So he's been around a long time, and I know he's going to talk a lot about that, as well as the ICL. Both Orazio and Rob play in the ICL. Rob is an ICL Hall of Famer. Shall we bring them in?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Get them in
All
here.
right, guys, let's get you in here.
We need to have some music when people come in.
Guys should.
I'm telling you.
You want
We
music?
we need some music.
Okay.
We gotta get the people going.
All right.
Not that type of music.
Welcome to the show. Mr. Orazio and Rob Zorian. Great to have you guys. What's up?
Great to be here.
Geez, I thought I was going to a football game there.
Thank you. Thank you. See, Dan, we gotta change the music, Dan.
Well, Ozzy knows I like my country.
Should
Yeah, thanks for having us. What's better than talking baseball on December 15th? I think this is a great idea by yourself, Dan, Omar, and Matt, now that you've joined. But this is a good opportunity to talk about, amateur baseball in New England. It's never been done before. And, there's a lot of good baseball in this area, and I think it should be promoted.
And I mean,
Appreciate that.
you wear a whole number of hats. I don't know if I listed them all of them. You're the Medford head coach. You're obviously coach of the 28 plus Senators, the commissioner of the 28 plus division in the BMBL. You're on the board of the ICL. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I'm also my son's little league coach as well, so you can just add another one to it. But yeah,
Raz, are you still a part of the Middlesex Reds AAU program?
yeah, I do help out. I help out with some clinics throughout the year. Just keep myself busy and keep the kids more interested. The program with the Reds, I've been with them since 2004, and they've done a great job. Really kind of growing the program and being around. You see a lot of these programs, disappear after a few years and maybe change their name. I'd have to say Joe Chiodo, who's the president of that program, has done a very good job of promoting it and getting kids to play and stay and not really get outpriced. It's kind of been steady across the board all these years that he's done it. So I think, when people ask me what program their kids should be in, first of all, I want to make sure that they qualify for the program. But I think that Joe does a good job with his program, all ages, and he makes sure that it's the right fit for the player as well.
It's a good point. I coached AAU for a little while, and that was one of my biggest gripes is that it seemed like the programs itself making so much money and they're taking away from what they were actually putting or giving to him. It was getting exorbitant. And then as a coach, you were making a small percentage, and it was just too much.
Yeah, again, you get stuck with some programs have multiple teams for a certain age group. You gotta have a squad, a B squad, a C squad, sometimes a D squad, and you're looking at it and you're saying, well, what am I paying for as a parent? And you hope that you get some coaching out of it, but at the end of the day, you have maybe the dad coaching the team, and that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for my son to win games. I'm looking at him to try to get better and be taught the game. If I'm paying that amount of money, that sometimes you're wondering what you're really doing. So, and it's not easy. If you're not in the network, you're not sure what programs are great out there. And there is a lot of good programs out there, I will say. But you do see a lot of programs change.
Yeah, Ozzy, that's really just a great point. I think that's if a great friend of mine not that long ago in business and also a former pro athlete, he said to me, he asked a great question. He said, instead of saying what's your pain point, so if we're talking about baseball, right, in amateur baseball, instead of saying what's your pain point, he asked me what makes my heart hurt. And it really choked me up. And I said, but what makes my heart hurt is to see children in that 6 to 12-year-old range that they're not able to find a program, Ozzy, like you were saying about Middlesex. They weren't able to find a program that was a good developmental program where they could just learn how to play the game of baseball. And so for me, that breaks my heart because we all grew up in a time when we played on playgrounds and we played at the time when I was that age, I was in Jersey, so we played a lot of stickball. I know in Boston, which is where I was born and raised and came back for college, that it was more wiffle ball, and then Jersey and New York had stickball. But the bottom line was we were out on that playground playing everything: stickball, kickball, kill the man with the football, you name it. And we all grew up,
Never played that. I remember that.
yeah, in fresh air, and the touch football games turned into tackle, even if it was on the street. And, you might have gotten bloodied up and lost some teeth and whatever it was, but toughened you up. And we called that schoolyard game. So they obviously don't exist anymore. But I've always, and Ozzy knows this, I've always been an optimist. Things come back around, and I really see some things changing in amateur baseball. And I hope they continue to, because we're losing a lot of kids to other sports before they even really get a chance to play baseball. So I'm hoping that we're going to turn that around. And I really do like the shout out to Joe Chiodo, because anytime we plug our Intercity League guys, or, again, whether it be Park League or MABL, it's all amateur baseball. And there's a lot of great people that are coming from our hood that are doing some really good things locally, and we should give them credit, and we should promote them, and try to help them. So I think that was great.
Totally agree, Rob. I've known Joe for years. He's as classy as they get, and he's absolutely in it for all the right reasons. Um, and Rob, to your point, I mean, playing ball the way we did as kids, from the time the sun came up to the time the sun went down, and we went in only because the street lights came on, made us essentially fall in love with this game. And like you said, that's what's preventing like these kids from doing the same. So they're getting now, actually, where I wanted to go with this to with Raz is he's also the varsity baseball coach. On the flip side, then you have all these kids who are in school, they're playing ball, and are they doing it for the right reasons? Do they want to? You're not, you certainly aren't getting the amount of kids who are coming out for the programs as heavy as they were. And I mean, I don't know how it is at Medford, but I coached in Boston Public for a while, and I was lucky that I was able to have 9, 10 guys on the team. From my last couple of years coaching, and it had changed so much. So Raz, I know you're doing a great things over there. I've now been able to umpire a few of the games. Some classy boys in that program of yours. What's uh, what's it like seeing these kind of young men do kind of grow and mature, not only on the fields, as ball players, but like also as young men outside the classroom.
Yeah, I have to say baseball, was different when we grew up. Rob made a point of we used to just go play, every day till 5 o'clock or till we had to get home for dinner. That's changed. Now everything's organized, right? And these guys just have to be there at a certain time. And if they're not told that, it's very slim that they'll do it on their own. But I will say I have a good group of ball players. I've been the head coach at Medford High School since 2020. I was the assistant coach there um, from 2012 to 2020. And I will say the kids are committed. The numbers are not as large as the past. I've had eighth graders come up, which helps my program because with those eighth graders, they have now a year under their belt playing high school baseball, and they're not playing freshmen. They're actually jumping to the JV. And that's kind of across the board. We play in the Greater Boston League. And, the city teams now are not, coming in with 100 kids in the program. They're looking for kids that are interested in playing or maybe willing to try the sport, and we're considered Division One, and it's sometimes you look at it and you say, well, can we compete with the private schools? And you have St. John's Prep, BC High, Zorian, a lot of good schools out there that are probably recruiting players. I don't have that ability to do that. And kids have opportunities to leave to go to a private school if they want. So you have to try to get them early And hopefully, your program says, hey, I do want to come to Medford High School. I can get it done at Medford High School. Um, and I believe that really that you can get it done. If you work hard in the classroom, you can go to wherever you want to go. I've had kids go to Harvard. I've had players go to Villanova and play, 3, 4 years there. It's just wherever it really comes down to you saying, what do I want to do and where do I want to be in 4 years?
And I know this comment could lead something down a rabbit hole, so I don't want to do that. But um, still very involved with college baseball and and helping a lot of high school players go to college. And um, Ozzy knows this name. Good friend of mine, Colin Young, who played in the Intercity League and um, got to AAA, got to AA with both the Red Sox and the Rockies. He was a left-handed pitcher. And he told me, and he's in a travel program involved in a travel program called the Canes. So it's a national program, and they've got them all over the country. But they have really good one down there in Texas where he is. And he's in the Dallas area, and he told me that a lot of players now are not opting. They're Division I players that are now going D2 and D3. And when I asked him why, he said because a lot of the Division I coaches now they're not getting the majority of their players from high school anymore. They're getting them in transfer portal, and they're getting them from junior colleges, and they're getting them from, you know, like I said, they're getting them from Division II and III schools. So I don't know how to explain it, but Ozzy knows that the Division III schools in New England have just kept getting better and better and better. And it used to be that it would be 3 or 4, and I can name them for you: Eastern Connecticut, Southern Maine. Eastern Connecticut and Southern Maine were the top 2 for probably 20 years. And there were a handful of other schools that UMass Dartmouth was one of them. Every now and then you'd get a handful of other schools, and Suffolk University, Brandeis, Baps, and you would get them from time to time, have really good seasons and be in the top 20 and such. However, that being said, now, and Ozzy can tell you, there are literally 20 Division III schools in New England that in any given year can pop the top 20 now. And so Division III has gotten a lot stronger. And now Division II is starting to hurt again because so many of the schools have gone either D1 or D3. So now in New England, there's very few Division II schools. The landscape is constantly changing in amateur baseball, and as they say, the goalposts are moving. So that makes the high school coach's job, well, I'm sorry, not just high school, developmentally, it's becoming harder and harder to help players because everything keeps changing, and so there's just not as much consistency. When you got a guy like Ozzy that's been at the same school for all those years, that's really it's just a big thing for kids. This is what it's still a kid's game, and if we're gonna keep developing kids, they need consistency, just like they need in the classroom, just like they need at home, just like they need in their faith-based communities. It's all the same.
I just personally think like the game is being taught differently than it was in the past and is pushing away certain players. For example, coming up, if you have a guy like a Steele, put the ball in play and get it first, he'll have a place on the team. Now, no one really wants a player like that because they want the guys that hit the home runs, the doubles. When you watch, I watch these kids hit in batting practice, and they're trying to hit the top of the cage. I'm like, what? I just curious. What are you guys doing? Oh yeah, I'm working on my launch angle. And then I'm watching them when they face pitching in the cage and they can't hit it. And sometimes I feel like it's a show for them. They rather be in the cages and exit velo and all this stuff, and it's taken away from the essence of the game. This game was always a chess match. Now it's just is a showboat. Let me hit a home run or let me strike them out. You know, there's no bunting no more. There's no hit and run no more. You know, and I feel like you're taking away from certain players that used to be able to play the game that won't be able to play the game right now. You look at a guy, for example, back in the day, um, Ricky Henderson. In today's game, granted he can hit home runs, but those stolen bases won't matter. So what Ricky Henderson made his career off of now is just a second. It does is a no one cares about it, you know. And I feel like coaches like Raz still being around, being able to transition the new era and showing them that hey, there's other parts of the game. When's the last time you seen a high school team bunt?
Uh, Omar, you bring up some great points, and I'll tell you, you brought up that whole launch angle. That works for certain players.
Yeah,
Very minimal. Okay, it's very minimal that guys can do that, right? Bringing back the bunting, the hit and run, stealing. Some teams are that's what they have. That's what you have in front of you. So that's what you got to do. But kids, and I bring in the programs that we have, these AAU programs. They're putting something in their head that they think that will get them to the next level. And if you bring it back a notch, right, you can still hit the ball hard, right, and get to that level.
Yeah.
I've been in the game, and Rob's been in the game for many, many years. And if you see talent, you know the talent. You're not going to exclude that person. I could ask any coach if they saw someone hit the ball up the middle consistently, they're not going to say, "Oh, gee, we're going to pass by that because this guy over here has got a launch angle." I get it; it's part of the game, and it's a new vision out there. But how do we win ball games as a team here, right?
Very good. Yes.
Okay, it's a team. It's still a team sport. All right, and I still do it with our players. I tell them all the time, 1 through 9, wherever you're hitting in the lineup, you're gonna have to learn how to bunt. We're not gonna be that team that hits 5 to 10 home runs a year, and the players, because of what they've been taught and told, that's what their mindset is. Now, when you go to the college level, I do see some teams, they're doing it 1 through 9, but they're capable of doing it. Okay. Some teams are not. I've seen college teams. I say, what are they doing? They're not able to do it at this level. So it really depends on what talent pool you have in front of you, and can they really do it?
Yeah. Because it's also when you talk to a parent, like for example, I used to do AAU a long time ago. It was before the launch angle era, but now I when we go to practices, we see all these AAU programs, and the number one thing that parents ask, "What's the launch angle?" And his kid is like 4'7". I'm like, dude, why aren't you showing them how to bunt? Why aren't you showing them how to hit the ball to right center? Like, why aren't you showing them how to be a pest at the plate? No, he's trying to hit the ball far, and he's 4'7", and he's a sophomore.
But where do you think they're getting that from? I mean, that the
Because
MLB,
that's the cool thing to be, bro.
and that's what the MLB is showing now. The first, as soon as Aaron Judge or someone gets a big hit, the first thing you see on the screen is, the launch angle. And
But think about this. Think about this. Us growing up, they will highlight the stolen base. They will highlight a big suicide squeeze. They will highlight certain things of the game that is no longer cool, but they're changing the game.
Right.
Well, and again, but think about this, and we were actually talking about it with a group I was working with today, in the cages, and we were doing ground balls, and we were lucky we had a nice area today to work at, and we were talking with a small group of coaches, and um, Ozzy might know the numbers better than mine, that I know them, but it's something like only 4% of all high school baseball players. So just forget about travel ball for a second. I think it's only like 4% go to college to play baseball. And that means that way less than 4% finish 4 years of college baseball for whatever the reason. Maybe they get drafted, but most of them just don't play 4 years for one reason or another. Obviously, that number goes down far from college to pro. even with the addition of all the independent leagues, which there's some really bad ones out there, right? So that might have gotten the numbers up a little higher. But let's just say we said from college baseball to affiliated baseball, which means it's affiliated with major leagues. Ozzy, I'm gonna say it has to be somewhere around 1 to 2% of all college, players.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
It's
So now when you take that number and then what number out of that percentage gets to play in the major leagues? Okay. So when you think about it, now it really goes to show you how ridiculous it is to take a 6 to 12-year-old, because once they hit 12, and Ozzy, again, if it's a little bit different now, you just let me know. I wouldn't get my feelings hurt. But before 13 years old, those kids are playing on smaller diamonds, right? So to not teach them the fundamentals of the game between 6 and 12 is a sin. And unfortunately, whether travel ball meant to do that or not, they did it, meaning a lot of those teams, I'm not going to say all of them, because again, I think it would be unfair to the people that were like the ones we talked about, Joe, Middlesex. It's unfair because there's some great travel ball out there. So I wouldn't say all of it. I know Colin Young does a great job with his Canes franchise, but the majority of the younger ones between 6 and 12, they're playing 3 to 4 to 5 games on a weekend. They're never practicing. And a lot of these kids, the second they get to a bigger field, what do, Ozzy? They quit. Why? Because no one's giving them trophies. Nobody's telling them how great they are. They find out that they can't even make their middle school baseball team, but yet they have 10 rings on their fingers, and everybody told them that they're the next coming of Derek Jeter, Roger Clemens, some people from our era, that they're gonna be better than those guys, and they seriously feed this to kids. Whereas Ozzy, when we were playing, they probably just, most people, that was no social media, there was no cell phones, there was no anything, and most of those coaches probably making fun of you if you ever said you were any good. I know me, when especially in high school, in Oklahoma, and I'd like to think I reached some pretty good places there. I got to play in a state tournament. We were in the top 3 out of 96 teams in our class, and I got to play in the Oklahoma All-State games. And my coach used to bust my chops constantly. He used to tell people when I was on the mound that I couldn't break a plane of glass, and I was throwing the ball probably at that time 84 back before the high guns, and I thought that was gassing it up. So everything in the world is relative, and that's the thing is we give kids so much praise now, and their skin is so thin to any kind of criticism that we're losing kids, and that's what's not being addressed. We are losing kids way too young to this game where they could enjoy it and play it. Who knows, Ozzy? Maybe all the way through high school they could play and enjoy it. So anyway, that's my thing, guys, and I'm sorry because I could, it's kind of like yelling into the wind, but it, like I said, that's what breaks my heart, and so I don't say mission, it's purpose. So I know we'll get into it another time, but I heard you guys talking about bats before. All the stuff you guys were talking about, it's kind of all right on until you get into pricing, and Ozzy will tell you, if a kid wants a wood bat bad enough, Coach Z will get it in his hands. Won't I, Ozzy?
Absolutely.
Yeah, always on all team.
It is not a price thing, but it is a quality thing, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And I'll just hop on this now because you guys were talking about it, just so you don't have to ask me. The cost of the billets, because you guys want to know why it jumped from 65, which, by the way, that was dead on, and Ozzy could tell you, 2003 when I started the company, that's the price of the bat, $65. That's what it was in 2003. We were always what I would call average priced. And if you look at our quality, I would say we're still on the lower to average price for quality, right? But the cost of the billets, which is what makes a baseball bat, they tripled in price after COVID, and they haven't come down. So just FYI, if you're talking to somebody like the guy at Victus who you can't get on the phone, I always say you can't get Mr. Victus on the phone. You can sure as heck get Coach Zorian on the phone. And I will tell you though that if you did get him on the phone and you asked him why his bat was $200, he'd tell you that it's because the cost of his billet is the same as the cost of my billet, and they're great quality and they cost a lot of money. And if you're gonna make firewood, then you just go to Dick's Sports and you get yourself a piece of firewood, or they call it retail wood. You go buy retail wood, you can get it pretty cheap.
And Rob, where do you get these billets?
So although I wouldn't disclose where I get them, meaning the actual location, I can tell you that the majority of the wood that we purchase comes from the region in Western upstate New York, Pennsylvania, and Ontario. That's where the majority of our maple and our birch comes from.
So I don't. I just want to make sure that the people watching saw it, but Rob has offered 30% off your next order if you mention this is Boston Baseball. If you go to his website, ZorianBats.com, and fill out the contact form and mention this is Boston Baseball, he will give you 30% off your next order. Just make sure you provide a valid phone number and email address.
Yep, and right on the thing, the key was a valid mobile phone number and email address, not one or the other. I need both of them. If we're gonna offer you a special, we got to be able to contact you. So make sure you fill it out early. And then you guys, I think we're gonna say mention a code, and then they'll get a call back. We are in the process of updating our website. We've been one of the first people in the industry to ever have a website. We started ours in 2003. But as you all know, technology keeps moving forward, and we've added a new Shopify store recently, and we are in heavy construction of that site now. And I do not have an estimated time yet. I'm hoping within the next month. But for now, we are having people that want custom products make sure that they write in or call it.
22 years is a long time making bats. Do you remember when your first bat or what it was?
So Ozzy knows the story, and I'll keep it short. I was in Davie, Florida, where I started the company. I went down to Nova Southeastern, and I knew there was something going on that day, and I didn't know what it was, but it was an independent league tryout. And I just walked into the gate. My friend was a baseball coach there at Nova Southeastern, told me about it. I went down. He said, just go into the dugout and find me when you get in. I walked in, and he wasn't there yet. I sat in the dugout, and I looked over, and I saw this guy look familiar. Very distinctive face, and I was like, look, double take. And I said, Coach Gedman? He said, yes, sir. And I said, at the time, Rob Zorian, introduced myself. And I said, I have Zorian bats. And if anybody knows Rich, he's kind of dry. He goes, well, we want to do with them. And I said, I don't know, maybe some of you guys can use them. He said, well, get them out there. So they were having an independent league tryout. And I put some bats out in the thing, and I think he saw that the guys kind of liked them and this and that. And he said, hey, Z. I said, yes, sir. He said, think you make my son one of those? I said, yes, sir. All right. He goes, you got a card? Yeah. Gave him my card. All right. So that's good. That's good. And we talked to some guys, I think, didn't sell any there that day. Guys tried them out, blah, blah. And then I guess he must have gotten them together, and I think they liked them. And I made his son, Michael, a bat. I think it was maybe about 2 years later when I was back in New England, I actually ended up coaching him a little bit, but he ended up, I guess, liking it, telling his dad he liked it. So the time Rich was coaching at the North Shore, I forget, it wasn't Navigators, it was Spirit, and it was an independent league team, and he got a couple dozen of them. And the very next year, he went over to a team called the Worcester Tornadoes, and he became their head coach.
Yep.
And then I think they got like 6 or 8 dozen of them. And I don't know. To this day, I would say a friendship began. Like all of us in baseball, would get to know each other a little bit, and I'll end it with this because again, I could go on forever about Rich. Probably one of my favorite people in baseball, top notch guy,
Great.
and again, forget about baseball, just a great human being. And so anyway, it was a guy named Tyler Pennerini. Coach Pennerini was my boss in Ohio. Coached at the College of Worcester in Worcester, Ohio. I was there 3 years. So his son played with Nick Swisher. So I used to make Nick Swisher's bats. Not when he was with the Yankees, when he was with the Oakland A's. And we had a really good relationship because I used to throw batting practice to Nick Swisher when he was at Ohio State. By the way, Ohio State's called Swisher Field now, Nick Swisher Field. So I used to throw BP to Nick and Terry Petterini. Now, Terry Petterini is probably 46 years old, but it was his brother, Tim Petterini Jr., that has a son, and his son's name is Tyler Petterini, and that's Coach Petterini's grandson. So get this with our baseball connection. Tyler Petterini played for Matt Gedman, Rich's other son, who not only coaches at Trinity College, but he also coaches in the New England Futures League, the Futures League. So he coached Tyler Petterini for 2 years. Tyler, a couple of years ago, won the home run derby using Zorian Bat. He hit 46 home runs in 3 rounds. And he's a senior at Ohio State this year. And will be, I'm pretty sure will be drafted. But again, it's just the nature of our business and being from the hub, all of us. It's about the tightest knit baseball community I've ever come across. And it's great people. Like I said, we just all got to pull for each other and try to promote amateur baseball. And Dan, I thank you so much for having this podcast because this is how you do it. Just get people that have like minds and just push for each other and try to get younger kids not only out playing, but keep them playing. The only way to do that is to
Keep
volunteer.
it playing.
Yeah, you got to volunteer.
Yep. So I'd like to pivot if we could, because I know you guys, you're a Hall of Famer in the ICL. I know Raz had a long stint in the ICL. He's currently on the board. I know there's a lot of history with the Intercity League that you guys were telling me about that I didn't know. So Raz, would you like to talk about the history of the ICL? Because I know you were a longtime member, and some of the things you were telling me the other day was I thought was pretty cool. How long they've been around and all of that. But
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, I'm gonna show my age here, but I was in the ICL from '95 to now, and my first game in the ICL, I really thought I was playing at the next level before I even went to college, and the type of players that I met, the type of players I was playing with, it was definitely next level baseball, and from then on, I was loyal to that league, to the Intercity League. I didn't know anything else besides the Intercity League. When I came home from college, it was go time. It was summer baseball, and you tried to win. You won the championship with the team you played for. The Intercity League is going to be entering their 75th year in 2025, which is amazing. Well, the teams that we've had and that had been around for close to 30 to 40 years consistently is amazing. The teams that we have, people that have been involved in the Intercity League, and I'm going to throw some names out there because they deserve the credits out there. Rick DeAngelis, who's our president of the Intercity League, he also the owner, manager, general manager of the Lexington Blue Sox. I'm sure you guys have heard of them.
Yep.
You got Chuck Andre, who's run the Andre Chiefs for many, many years, and then they were also the Hosmer Chiefs. You have Kevin Burgoyne, who runs the Melrose Americans. He's been around for close to 45 to 50 years. It's the loyalty is there. And again, we saw some quality baseball players, former professional players that would come back and play. It was all about summer baseball. And the crowds that we used to get for games, we're talking close to 3,000 to 4,000 people at a game, because that was just the thing to do at night. There wasn't any social media, right? If the Red Sox weren't playing or weren't doing well, people would just go down to your local ball field and watch your team play for the local town. And it's an exciting time. And again, things have changed. And we talk about the Boston Park League and the Yorkie League. They've been around for many, many years. And if you didn't play in the Cape Cod League, you played in one of these leagues. And the Intercity League was one of the better leagues in the area. And I know Rob would attest to it. And Rob came here and didn't really know much about the ICL till he got involved. And he'll tell you, and I'll tell you, that the amount of people that we met and networked and friends that we have till to this day from this league it's amazing. We had our first Hall of Fame dinner in 2010, and 400 people showed up. And the original team that won the championship was a North Cambridge team. They brought about maybe 12 to 14 players. They were so excited about the event that it took us very long to try to put it together, but we finally did, and we knew that was going to be a big hit. So there's a lot of history there, and Rob can attest to it. And I just like to keep it going. And again, I'm on the board now, and I like to see competitive baseball across the board. And I think the ICL is one of the best leagues in the area.
Raz, what do you think has been the key to keep that going, besides the loyalty?
And how do we get back to 400 fans watching the games? I mean,
No, there was 3,000 fans.
3,000. Yeah.
Yeah, in the finals there was, and typically it was played in Melrose for many, many years. It was played in Melrose under the lights. There was a track running through the outfield. There was Canadian geese on the field, and there was all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And there literally would be 500 people from the left side down to where the fences were, behind the fences, in the football stadium, but behind, and then of course they had the grandstands there, and they were filled, they were packed, and it was always a 7-game series. Again, I felt very blessed. I played on 4 different teams that won it, and just every year when you didn't win it, it would crush you. It would hurt your heart, because you felt like it was right there within grasp. And there really was no gimme games in that league for lots of years. There wasn't any games that that were easy, because think about it. You were talking about guys, even on the teams that were on the lower end from year to year, meaning not every year, but from year to year, you have teams that would be down towards the bottom. Those teams might have had 3 or 4 former minor league players on. And again, I lived in Boston. I came back to attend Suffolk University. I was a sophomore when I got here, because I played a year Division I junior college in Oklahoma. And when I got here, Chuck Andre had called my coach, who was Joe Walsh at the time at Suffolk, and he said, "I'm looking for a shortstop. I got an Oklahoma kid here." And he goes, "Well, he's originally from Allington." So he said, he said, "Send him over." And he said, "Is he any good?" And he said, "Yeah, he's pretty good. Send him over." So I went over, and I'll never forget. It was the first time in my life I'd ever sat on a bench, and I was sitting behind the Hall of Famer. And he went away on a little vacation, and I got in the lineup and hit about 480 in 2 weeks, and stole about 14 bases, and scored a lot of runs, and made some pretty good plays. And I didn't come out of that lineup for 10 years. I was an Andre Chief for 10 years, and then I played on the Lexington Blue Sox for 2, and he already named the guys. Chuck Andre, and Rick DeAngelis are family. They're family, Ozzy's family. And again, when you're playing against each other back then, now we weren't family. I mean, we competed hard, but off the field, we all had camaraderie. And then just like it's supposed to be, when your playing days come to an end, now those are all your brothers. And we all support the league. I'm not going to tell you it's like the NFL and the Shield, but it's pretty damn close for us, us guys that never, that was the highest level I ever played. I didn't get to play pro ball, so I'll never take it lightly. I'm extremely grateful. I think I probably shed a tear, when I'm at those Hall of Fame events, and it doesn't have to be, when I was up giving a speech or anything. You just feel that real bond with people, and now Ozzy knows, because now he's got, God bless him, he's got a family of his own now, and that's when it gets more emotional, because now you got your children. You realize how much those guys gave up. That not just the coaches, by the way, those older guys that were like my big brothers that taught me. They taught me how to play baseball. I learned a lot in college, and I had one of the best coaches in the country. But I will always say, I learned how to be a man in baseball playing the Intercity League, right? Against guys that are throwing 90 plus and locating it too, not just throwing hard. And literally coming after you every night like it was the last game they were ever going to play. So I'm very grateful. And Ozzy's still in it, and it's when he gets out someday, it'll be even more so. And I hope he never gets out. I'm looking for a way back in, contribute more, because that again, when you say what makes that league great, ask Ozzy. People come back. They come back. They come back for games. They have reunions. They do things. They really feel connected to it. So I think that's why it's been around for as long as it has. It's got a lot of people that love it. So, and now we got to get the younger kids. We got to get them to feel that way about it. Like I said, I'm an optimist. It's a hard time, but it can still be a great time. And we got to help those young kids to grow up into young men playing the game, because when it's all said and done, those are all life lessons, and everybody who's ever coached here will know that. It goes far beyond baseball. So much bigger than baseball.
Absolutely.
It's life.
Yeah, and those two teams are still at the top. I mean, they were in the final last 2 years. The Chiefs, Andre Chiefs, won the last 2 years, right? They went back to back.
Yeah. They've done a great job over there with the Chiefs. The last couple of years with Anthony Perry, the manager. He's won a couple of championships, and he does a good job getting guys on his team. And I will say, and for the league, teams have been committed every year, and we do get new teams every once in a while that come in. We stay within 8 to 10 teams for the league. We don't like to get oversaturated with teams. But I will say also, sponsors were very big back in the day. Most of the teams would have a sponsor. And that team would have a local, whatever, if it was a funeral home or if it was a bakery or an oil company, they would sponsor the team, or they would sponsor players. That doesn't happen as much anymore. And that's why you could see less and less teams. And, that's also an issue out there as well, where the sponsors are not there anymore. You used to be able to get a sponsor, and they would donate for uniforms or pay for the fields. Cost has gone up, and people are not willing to do that anymore because there's other avenues of trying to sponsor something. So,
And you said that you feel like that's causing less players, because those top tier leagues, those players never had to pay money before, and now they're being asked to pay money. So, it could be stopping a lot of these players from playing.
yeah, I mean, players, when you're asking for money, and I feel like, though, now they might be used to it because of of the cost of umpires, fields, uniforms, baseballs. There's so much cost out there that you really have to explain it and break it down to the players. And I think they're willing to make that payment. Obviously, most of these kids are younger, so they're asking their mom or dad to make that payment. But if they're already doing it with the AAU programs, they're probably saying, you know what, this is probably a discount for us because it's not $3,000, $4,000. We're playing baseball. But again, times have changed. You got to adapt to the changes, and that's something that is just it really is with all the leagues. I think it's happening where you have to pay to play, and it's not easy to run a team. You guys all know. You've all been managers here. It's not easy, and you want to do it, but you always say, "Chief, I'm always in the red." How do I get out of the red? You're never gonna get out of the red. You always that way.
Tell them how much for a dozen baseballs now.
Oh, it's crazy.
Rob,
It's crazy.
buy 50 of all, right?
Omar knows that very well.
I didn't want to make a plug, but if you don't want to be in the red, come to the CHBL. That's all I'm gonna say.
So Ozzy, just out of curiosity, like high school baseball, what's a dozen high school baseballs now?
Oh, is it?
Oh, you got to be thinking $60-something. I mean, I leave that from all the directors though. But there's definitely magnums and diamonds.
Now, if you want the real good, like the good baseballs, you pay 90.
No, I know, but I'm saying like, and again, not to get into baseball discussion, but like it just goes to show you, right, that it used to be that like through, a local sporting goods store or something like that, that let's just say, for example, they were going to supply 2 or 3 leagues or something like that. You just, again, it's 3 times what it used to be. You used to be able to get them 20, $25 a dozen. And those were really great baseballs. We're talking about Diamond D1 Pros, where again, this is before there was like 70 different versions and all kinds of different stuff. It was just a great baseball. Every time we played a game, it was the same thing. It was consistent. It was this and that. Now everything is just, it's crazy. So like I think to just piggyback on what Ozzy was saying is that when the costs go up like that, it's really hard unless you do have an extremely wealthy sponsor. It's really hard to not charge anything. So it's kind of like both. If you can supplement it a little bit and there's ways to maybe pick up, maybe it's not 1, maybe it's 10 sponsors. If you can just take it in and defray cost for especially the younger kids, right? Like, again, part of the charm of the league was always that the veterans in the league took care of the younger players. And the coaches, of course, helped as well, because most of the coaches were coaches / owners, GMs. They were all the same thing. So let's say, for example, they might have pumped in, I'm just going to throw a number out there, 5,000 a year or something like that. Well, Ozzy, that number would be like triple now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's just, so I think, again, there needs to be a lot of collaboration, and just people sharing ideas, about how to make their own things better. Because like, it's the sum of all the parts, right? Like if you make all of those amateur things better, and I'm not trying to start a movement here, but like you bring back something like American Legion, and you say, from 15 to 18, right? Cut out after your senior year. Just make it like more like your next year's high school team. Make that Legion. And now all those people would have a place to play that wouldn't cost them $6,000-$7,000 a year. It would cost them maybe $300 to $500 a year. And now you got American Legion back and you could go compete again. And we're not talking about rocket science ideas here. We're not talking about balancing the federal budget. We're not talking about, major Supreme Court decision. We're talking about amateur baseball. It shouldn't be that difficult and shouldn't be that expensive. So,
Rob, in principle, it's a good a good idea, but it just wouldn't work in today's world. The way that the AAU structure is now, the way that it costs for permits and stuff, I find it pretty hard to believe that like it'd be that easy to just start
Well,
there.
well, let me just stop.
Sure.
Let me just stop you there just for a second. So, if you look at, because now again you said AAU. Here's the problem: is there's just too many freaking different leagues. So, Ozzy, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but there is really no AAU after 14. The AAU that's after 14 is not competitive. Okay, it's not competitive. It's not. Those are not. If you're playing AAU after 14, not many of those kids playing college baseball.
I'd like to differ. I'm to about 50 games this past summer at Monin, and me and this kid did numerous different tournaments. They were AAU teams ages 16, 17, 18, and
Are you sure who are AAU twos?
they 110% know they were.
Okay, because a lot of those teams like Northeast Baseball and stuff like that, they don't play AAU past 14.
Yeah, the whole thing has completely changed. They have AAU like 7, 8-year olds now.
No, I knew that. I thought it was going Ozzy. I thought it was going younger, and that the 14-year-old pluses are now not. Well, I know it's like this in the South and the Midwest. They don't play USSSA after like 12 years old. And they don't have anything that they play a lot of perfect game, and there's another tournament thing out there that they play, but they don't do again everywhere outside of New England, by the way, is not AAU. So they have USSSA, and that's all ending now at like 12 years old. And it's
I don't mean to cut you guys off, but I think if you take the same concept you have for adult baseball and you bring it to let's say a division 13 to 15, 16 to 18, I bet you get a lot of parents that will pay $300 to have a 20-game schedule and playoffs. And it's high level competition. Think about the parents that can't afford 4 or 5 grand, but they can afford $300.
see that older AAU teams for all older AAU.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Mike Powell's made a good point. So it's a showcase for these older kids, for these 16, 17, 18-year-old
Some of those players are studs.
sophomores and juniors. They're not playing regular season games. They're going out there showcasing. So now,
Right. There you go. There you go. But what I'm saying is that outside of New England, none of that stuff's even called AAU anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing, is that, with travel ball now, the systems kind of get broken down, because like you were saying, Omar, and I don't disagree with you, but let's say you say 16 to 18 now. Now here, Ozzy will know exactly what I'm saying. When I was in Oklahoma, I was 15, right? I turned 15 during my sophomore year. I was very young. I graduated when I was 17 years old. When I was 15 years old, I was playing with 19-year-olds. And so that was part of the thing that pushed me, was that and we're talking about a place that's very well known for their baseball. So I was 15 playing with 19-year-olds and mostly 18-year-olds that were going into their senior year of high school, because they were kept back a year because of football. So they were going into their senior year, they were 18 years old, turning 19. And so when I was a sophomore, I was playing with those guys in the summer. It'd be your next year's high school team. And so my point is that it should go by merit and not by age. But unfortunately now we're going up by literally one age at a time. What is this, freaking hockey? We don't have that many kids. So there shouldn't be, like, especially at the younger levels, there shouldn't be 7U, 8U, 9U, 10U. It's
So
garbage.
you're saying as long as you can compete, doesn't matter your age.
Well, again, if you had a league like it, but that's the problem, is now, as he'll tell you, now there aren't any leagues like that anymore. And if they are, they're not competitive. Your local Babe Ruth league can't most of the time. I don't know. I'm sure there's some great ones, by the way. I'm not knocking Babe Ruth. But your local Babe Ruth league can't compete with your, again, I'll call it travel ball. That Babe Ruth might be 2 or 3 ages in a row, consecutive, whatever it might be, but they can't go and compete with those teams that are playing in those tournaments, because those are only one age, and they're pulling from what, like 50 different towns or 25 different towns. Like, how are you going to compete with that?
And not only that, they're losing teams. They used to have 6 teams. Now they probably have enough 3 or 4, but they're switching off every other week.
Right.
But I also feel like there's also another demographic you can reach out to that can't afford the 3,000-4,000. If you
I'm
create a
with you.
league, you learn.
No, I think like Omar, yeah, Ozzy and I have been talking about it for probably 10 years now. Again,
And
what
I don't
breaks
think
my heart?
I don't think it can be a city to city thing. I think it needs to be a Eastern Mass thing. Like, it can't be just a Malden thing. It can't be just a Somerville thing. I think it has to be all these cities have to be able to have a team or something to make it happen. Because I know for a fact there's a huge market in that. Because there's so many good baseball players. So think about this: if you're a young kid now, you don't get that exposure. These kids that are paying 4 or 5 thousand. So now it comes to a point that you have the money to take it to the next level. Now the other kids that don't have the money aren't getting that exposure. And I feel like if you create a league out here that's competitive and it's affordable, you're gonna get you're gonna get the top talent.
And that's why I say if you do something, and again, I'm not saying you can go back and do it now, because again, system has to get broken down a little more before it can happen. But if you take something like Legion and just make the ages right, and you just say to the American Legion, and I've actually had some really great conversation with some American Legion people around the country, and just said, hey, if you guys take it down and just don't allow college players anymore. Just don't. Just make it, if you graduated from high school, or if you're a junior, and like Ozzy said, well, if you're good enough, if you can play with guys that have either just graduated from high school, or they're gonna be sophomores, juniors, or seniors. So you got a big age range there. Now, if you go to Medford, can you fill a team? And if not, then Legion would have to redraw boundaries and say, okay, what can American Legion do to say it's either a town, 2 towns, 3, whatever it is? There has to be a rule. Now, if you went in and you restructured Legion, that could be your competitive baseball for high school again in the summers. That's what you could do with it. But it would have to be a situation where, unfortunately, in New England, what we keep doing with baseball is we take an already very small market and we keep chopping it up into 1,000 freaking pieces, and it doesn't work.
And there's only so many players you can get.
It's just so many. There's a lot of, like they used to say, lot of Chiefs, not a lot of Indians. Probably not politically correct, but
Yeah.
it's the truth. Everybody wants to be their own boss, and you can't be. You have to give something up to get something in baseball. There's got to be a lot of people that do it. Can't be a couple of people. So
I hear you. I just think, like, it's AAU is starting AAU, even though I know it's elite leagues and all that, it's starting to be watered down, and I feel like if you can afford it, you can play in it. Before, when I was coming up, you had to get selected, and now it's watered down. Now, when I was coming up, there was so many first basemen that I'm the shortest one, and I was a good ball player, but these guys were hitting home runs, I'm hitting doubles, and I couldn't make AAU. Now, if I was coming up in this era, I could make AAU as long as my parents pay for it. And now, do I deserve it? No, I rather work for it. And then I made Legion, but I couldn't go AAU because there was guys better than me. But now it's so saturated that as long as you can afford it, you can play in it. But then on the reverse side, if you can't afford it, you don't get that exposure. And we know that there's a lot of kids, especially in the Latino community, that can't afford that and deserve to be in that type of atmosphere, that type of competition, to get those college scholarships, to get those opportunities to get signed and stuff like that. That's why a lot of the times Latinos, they go back to the country and try to get signed over there because it's easier for them over there. Because over here it's become a money driven industry. Baseball become money driven. If you can afford it, you can get the top tier trainers, you can get the top tier equipment, and And I feel like that's why baseball's also dying, because they're selling, like you were said earlier, you're gonna be the next Roger Clemens, you're gonna be the next Ken Griffey Jr. There's only one Roger Clemens, only one Ken Griffey Jr. You know, and Billy, chances are you're gonna have to go to college and get a degree and go to work like all of us. But these AAU programs are selling them a dream to make a profit. Go ahead, sorry.
No. I think you're right on with all of it. And again, I think Ozzy's seen it because he's at high school. And again, all you got to do is ask him the numbers. You know, ask him the numbers of how many kids from high school go on to play in college, and then how many of those kids from college are getting a chance. And again, we were playing in a league where you could put 9 players on that field, and even the guys that were in college, very, very few of those guys. And again, we're talking about there was only one league around that was at the time that I'd say was better. That was the Cape League, but it wasn't. We weren't all college players, so we had pro guys playing. And even with that, the majority of the guys that were the college guys, you could name them right from each team. Ozzy will tell you the guys that signed, and there was usually like, I don't know, there's a handful every year out of the Intercity League that would sign with their college kids that went back to college, and then they'd sign out after college. And there's a few of them that signed as free agents when they got done. But the majority of guys that played in the 80s, 90s, and even into the 2000s, there was a lot of guys that went and played in college, maybe even played somewhere else, came back to the Intercity League, played in the summer, got drafted, and then after they played for whatever amount of time, could have been 2 years, could have been 8, they'd come back and play in the Intercity League. And hard. Played hard.
Any guys that people would know of?
No, I don't know. I mean, Ozzy will know all the same names. You had guys like Warren Olson, played Double-A. You had guys like Mike Langston, Justin Crisafulli, Alex Mays. Mike Pagliarulo. But like a lot of guys, Alex Maisel played in Europe for years and came back and played in the Intercity League. And Steve Coffey,
You had Keith Forbes. I mean, there's a list. There's a list. There's so many years.
Steve Langone.
Steve Langone, absolutely, yeah, yep.
And then you had the guy that was Hartung. Remember Hartung?
Yeah, Arthur Hartung, yeah.
Yeah.
Has any good PG stories you can share with any of us about
Which is kind of funny. Yeah.
I think Dan knows this story with Kevin McGlinchey. Kevin McGlinchey, if you don't know him, he loves the game of baseball. It's all he grew up with, and Kevin and I have been friends. We've been competitors. He was a Malden guy. I was a Medford guy. Rivalries. But Kevin played on my Somerville Senators team in the 30-plus league, and he shared a story where his first day of spring training with the Atlanta Braves, he didn't have anybody to play catch with. And it was almost like he was a little kid, and he didn't have anybody to play catch with. So Greg Maddox goes, hey, big guy, you're my partner for the spring training. So every day he would play long toss with Greg Maddox. And if you didn't know, Greg Maddox liked to smoke cigarettes. So after
I didn't know that.
After he played catch, he would take out a cigarette, smoke a cigarette, and then go play around 18 with Tom Glavine and the rest of that pitching staff. But McGlinchey said that Greg Maddox was his person he played catch with every single day at spring training. So it was almost like a little kid saying, "Oh, geez, I don't have anybody to play catch with." But he's got some good stories. I'm sure you guys know he was involved in the Grand Slam that was Grand Slam.
I happen to have that clip. Clip actually.
Oh, there you go. Look at that.
He's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill me. But take a look.
A drive to right. Back to Georgia. Gone.
a brand slayer.
Yeah, he's gonna kill me. But
So that was not, it was a home run, but it wasn't a home run. You want to tell the story again?
no, I mean, I think everyone knows. Like he got mobbed at second base, so it only goes in the books as a single.
Yeah. But the Mets won the game, but the Braves won the series. They ended up pitching in the World Series versus the New York
I
Yankees.
mean, that pitching staff was ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Filthy.
It's just, I've met a lot of people through baseball, and when you hear stories like that at that level, you take it in and you say, wow, he pitched in the show. And as you get older and you start meeting more people and you start talking, you hear stories, and it's just amazing that that time is very limited that these guys played in the show. And just to hear a story like that, and who he played with, and if you ever talk to Kevin will tell you the guys he struck out and what pitch he threw on that pitch that he struck him out on. It's amazing. It really is. And baseball has been a great part of my life and most of our lives, that we keep on doing it. And people ask, why do you keep on doing it? Honestly, to me, it's competitiveness, but also the amount of friends and friendship that you get out of it is amazing.
I think what's most impressive of all the different positions that you have, Raz, is that you've been able to maintain your marriage as you have, and I think that's the most impressive thing.
That's what my biggest question was, Raz. Being a dad of two here is, what is that balance like? You're out a lot more lights than I am. How do you do it?
Because a lot of guys quit after they get married or have kids, and it's unfortunate.
Well, I have to say, I'm not playing as much, or barely anymore. I'm more
By the way,
on the being on the board, but I'm the manager of the Senators, and that is doesn't take much time. It does take a lot of time, but not as much as where I'd be on the field every day in the Intercity League. I was a field manager there. We'd be playing 3 to 4 times a week. And I enjoy the game, obviously, and I enjoy playing with these guys and being able to just be part of the game. And I have to say a big thanks to my wife, Leah, of course, and my 2 kids, Mason and Peyton, who are 6 and 3. And one of these days, I'm going to be watching my son hopefully play at the next level of my daughter. So we'll see what happens in the future, but it is a tough thing to balance, no doubt about it. I'm always running around trying to make sure that things are organized, but I enjoy it, and that's the thing about that, is that I do enjoy it. I love it. But I have to say I have a big support of my wife and my kids and my family. So
I say we pay our dues in the off season as much as possible.
and Rob, you have 3 boys.
I do.
Did they ever get to see you play?
I now I have Christian and Noah, who are now 10, and I have Luke, who's 13. And yeah, it's like Oz said. I mean, it's a balancing act, right? They play multiple sports, all of them. So I coach them in different sports, and I'm present, so I'm there for as much as possible as far as watching them. And again, we talk a lot about sports and everything, but just everything, right? Oz, yeah, I mean, they got school, they got we have a great little faith-based community here in Cranston, and and then school and sports, and you put everything all together, and it's, what do they always say? Give somebody something to do that's busy, and they'll find a way to get it done. And that's kind of the dad game, right? Like you want them to grow up. Again, we talked a lot about baseball tonight. You want the baseball lessons to be life lessons, right? We've all benefited from it. Of course, we want our children to benefit from it, and then hopefully the people, loved ones in our lives that we have around us, we want them We want them all to be a benefit from that hard work and all the effort that you put into it. And like Ozzy says, I mean, it comes back around. Like to me, it comes back around tenfold. Um, the majority of our friends and things like that, they're from baseball. And like I said, I'm just grateful for all of it. And gave a talk in May at my original church and in Watertown called St. James. It's an Armenian Apostolic church, and my whole family was baptized there. And they asked me to come and talk at their speaker series, and the subject was my baseball journey. And just a lot of it is stuff we touched on today. Just, you go through life and it just, to me, it's all related to baseball. So just, yeah, it's a great game. Like I said, in New England, we have a lot to be thankful for. It's an underrated sport in New England. We for all the challenges that we've said, think about all the great things. I mean, we never really had indoor baseball before, and now there's a baseball facility almost in every town. Kids that really love the sport, they do have a lot of opportunities to get better at it. Someday we'll figure out the tough questions, I'm sure, but like everything else, keep steamrolling on, and hopefully everybody's kids just get involved in it and enjoy it for what it is. And then when it's time to be done, they look back on it and say, hey, we had fun. We gave it the best we could. And like we've talked about during the whole show, some people go further along than others, and that's just part of it.
That's my hometown, by the way, Cranston. I think I told you that.
Yeah.
Rhode Island.
Cranston.
Freda Felcher from Cranston.
You make a lot of good points in there, Rob, but it's also true. Like, I think the people that are important in our lives know how much that we love this game. The teammates that we have. I mean, there's a reason why my kids call this guy Uncle D. And it's those friendships, those relationships you build, those life lessons you gain from so many people. You hope you can take with you. And I, as a father, hopefully can pass them along to my kids. Hopefully they can see the passion I have for this game and bring it into what hopefully they love.
All said. Man, I couldn't imagine 4,000 people at one of our games. I mean, and I don't know if social media is bad because, as you guys know, I live stream a lot of the BMBL games in the postseason, and I wonder if that's stopping people from going. But I couldn't imagine playing in front of 4,000 people. I mean, that's what you get at the Cape League games. So it's amazing that you used to have that many fans at your games. It must have been awesome.
It wasn't that long ago either, was it?
No,
Imagine passing the hat on those games.
oh wow, yeah. Put $1 in it, take $1 out. Rob, what year did you make the Hall of Fame? If you're willing to share.
To be honest, I can't remember. I don't know. I'll count probably 5 years, maybe 6. I don't.
Rob, I don't have it in front. I think it was 2017 and 2018.
There you go.
Yeah.
How many years did you play in the league?
12.
12 years.
You stopped. Rob won championship with both his teams, right?
I did. I won multiple with both, 2 with each. And the answer to the question about stopping was I started a bat company in 2003, and 2003 was my last year. I played in 02 and 03, and then that was it. I was living down in Florida for a while, and then when I moved back up, I was busy.
How many bats do you think you've sold since your inception?
Oh gosh. I'm just throwing a number out there, guessing probably close to 40,000-50,000.
Wow. And do you make them yourself, or do you have a team, or?
We have a shop. We do it in, contracted out. Yep.
Okay. It's cool stuff.
Any big plans to continue expanding, or where's the company off through these days?
Right now we're really focused on growing our line of wood bats. We have wood bats, training bats, fungal bats. We do a lot of award and commemorative bats, and then we've got a few other. We've got a product called Eagle Grip, which is like a tack defying towel that we sell a lot of, and we're really focused on those two products. Kind of stay in our lane right now. There's a lot of companies out there that we did a lot of batting gloves at one point, and the real short version of that story is I think we have a really great batting glove, but we 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 had to keep a lot of those in stock, and numbers after COVID just got so high, and I was like, we're gonna leave that to Bolt and Franklin and a couple of other, really large companies that they already do a great job doing it, and we didn't feel as if we at this time anyway, and I always leave the possibility for things open because people loved our batting gloves, um, uh, but uh, but we're really just focused on our wood right now and growing that business, um, and we're doing a lot of new things with different tournaments around the country, and we're doing a lot of showcases and just new things, breaking into a lot of leagues. You guys would be surprised at how many teams every year come up? I mean, somebody mentioned there's a lot of wood bat companies, and I know there are, but you'd be surprised at how many teams use wood and what ages they start at now from about 14 on up. In most of the Midwest and southern states, they're all wood in the summertime. So there's a big market out there.
I feel like that's the way it should be. It's crazy to me that they're still using aluminum in high school. Do you think that'll ever change?
I'm gonna actually, just for the sake of time, just leave that for what it is for now because
Yeah.
they already did it. They already did it in mass, and
Yeah.
it's just a political issue. It's a football, and I don't even want to get into it because the college game. As long as the college game's aluminum, the high school game's going to stay aluminum, and
Right.
I Ozzy knows my feelings on it. I mean, it's $500-600 for a good aluminum bat now. I mean, you want to talk about pricing people out of the game. There are literally only a handful of colleges that get deals. So, now you're talking about all that expense again. Forget about just balls now. Now you got bats as well, and just it's not worth really talking about. Like the game is better played with wood. Everybody knows it that's ever played with wood. Um, it's the integrity of the game. It's a way better teaching tool for younger kids. It's garbage that a young kid can't use wood because when Ozzy and I were playing Little League, well, Ozzy's a little bit younger than me, but we used to have a bat called a Worth Thumper. That thing was heavier than any freaking wood bat in the planet. So but you guys know how things go. It's, the marketing of products to young kids and their parents now is just trash.
Yep.
So, it's just it's a money grab. It's all there is to it. And bats are part of it. And, I'd go head to head with anybody who could tell me that an aluminum bat for a kid or a high school kid is a better product for them to be using. I'd go toe to toe with anybody on that.
I tell the kids in winter you should be hitting wooden bats.
Yeah.
You should be hitting with wooden bats. So when you get that aluminum, it becomes a weapon because you're gonna learn how to hit the ball correctly with a wooden bat. You have to hit it in the right spot. If you don't, you're gonna break it, and you're gonna become a better hitter that way, like you said. But the problem is, like you said, if college isn't using wood bats, high school, maybe the college players should, because they're the closest thing to minor league baseball. And that level.
Well, there's no doubt. But again, you guys, same thing. You got a handful of schools that are in the bag, and that's all it takes. And that's all it took Massachusetts had all wood bats in high school, and all it took was a handful of guys that were in the bag and for the aluminum companies, and that ruined it for something that was a beautiful thing with wood in high school. And there's a lot less. Again, it was a lot less money for families, right? Because Again, I don't know how most high schools are doing it, but I don't know a lot of coaches that are going to go pay $500-$600 for a bat. And they're not, high school coaches aren't getting bills on aluminum.
These players at Division I are almost minor league ball players, and
Exactly.
they should be using wooden bat. But again, Rob made the point. They're being supported by Eastern, and money's just being given. So they're not going to ever change these big schools in D1. But again, money drives that, and they should be using wood bats. And I know the high school did it. They actually did composite bats probably like maybe 15 years ago. Actually, the state conference were using wooden bats at one time.
There almost the entire state was using them at one in the beginning, and then there was like 5 conferences. You had the Catholic School League, Bay State. You had 5 of them that were used.
Yeah, but then when you went into tournament play, you went to the aluminum bat.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, it didn't make sense, but
Doesn't add up. So
but
if you really,
right.
by the way,
I mean, using wood bats like during winter season, yeah, absolutely. Then we come out using the aluminum bats. Like, I mean, I see college players doing that all the time. High school kids are doing it as well. But I think at the D1 level, at least at the D1 level, those are minor league ball players now. That the change will be made, or someone's going to get hurt. But you know how it is. We're always looking to see someone get hurt before we even make a change. Easy.
that's very true.
I don't think that NIL rules are going to allow that to change. Not anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yep. I agree, Matt.
All right, gents. Well, we appreciate your time. Anything else you guys want to talk about? I know you guys could talk baseball forever.
Yeah, like Ozzy said, thank you guys for putting this together. Wish you all the best with the podcast moving forward. I think you guys, you got a plethora of great coaches, players, umpires, to call on for this podcast. And I know I don't want to speak for Ozzy. I'll help you guys with anybody that you may want to, come on and shed some light, tell their story, whatever. There's just, again, Boston especially, but all throughout New England, there's so many guys that, contribute so many great things to the game. So applaud you guys for putting this together. I also thank you for having us on. I was really happy to get to be on with Ozzy, and I appreciate everything he does, not only for our league, but for Medford and just baseball in general, amateur baseball. So thank you, Oz.
Yeah, and that was nice of you to offer 30% off, to those who are watching. So take advantage, 30% off. Go to ZorianBats.com. Raz, any final word? Final thoughts?
Again, thank you for putting this together. I'm really looking forward during the season when, you guys are doing this weekly, especially with all the leagues. There's a lot of baseball being played in New England, and people saying that people are not playing baseball. I kind of go against that and say there's many leagues that you have an opportunity to go play some baseball, and the quality of baseball is, getting better. And it all depends on what you really want to do. Do you want to play 3-4 times a week? Do you want to play once a week? You could do whatever. We have those leagues out there, and I think if the opportunity is there for you and you want to play, go play some baseball. Let's keep it going and enjoy it, because it does end at some point.
Yes, sir.
And Rob, I heard you have some connects at ESPN, so feel free to plug this podcast to all your friends at ESPN.
We'll let him know. He says, sell some bats first.
What the podcast clubs are not.
Sell some bats first.
No, I hope you do get some orders from this.
Thank you guys.
We'll spread the word. We'll spread the word.
It was a great plug. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you very much.
Yes.
No, bud.
Always. Merry Christmas.
Happy holiday.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yes, sir.
Still trying to figure out how to sign off.
You just close out. It's all good. Or you can stay. There you go. No, another good episode. Sorry for technical difficulties, people, at the beginning.
Yeah, Daniel, you got to do better.
Yeah, right. We're live.
Oh, thanks again for having me. I had a blast. It was fun talking to these guys.
No, thanks for coming on, brother.
Thanks for being here, Gib.
You know,
Literally right next to me.
It was
it was
fun.
a good show. It was a good show. You know,
Like baseball. There's a lot of baseball being played. There's a lot of guys out there. There'll be a lot of people to talk to. Guys are doing some good things.
yeah, and just to the people watching, you know, if you want to come on, you have something to talk about, you know, hit us up. You know, at the end of the day, this is about having fun every Sunday. There's a lot of stuff going on in baseball. There's a lot of players that bring a lot of different things to the table. You know, there's people that are looking for jobs. You never know who's working where and can help each other out. This baseball community is a big network, you know, and it's bigger than baseball at the end of the day. And for the guys in the screen, we've been playing for more than 2 decades in this realm, you know, and we get it. And it's our job to continue to grow this, you know, and give back to our baseball community, you know, and stick together. You know, one thing, the common voice of our guests has been unity. To stick together, you know, because we sense it that if we don't do our part, all this could crumble, you know, and then the next generation is not going to experience what we did, you know, and we're unity.
Next generation, you know, so we're gonna have to pass it on to those next guys.
Exactly, you know. So again, we're gonna be here every Sunday rocking out. Dan's gonna continue to look like Michael Felger.
Sunglasses are here to stay.
The sunglasses are here to stay. You can make fun of us all you want, but listen, if you're gonna come on this show, you have to wear sunglasses moving forward.
Yes. Robert, Raz, we're not on board. They were not on board. They were hard pass. Yeah.
You know, they're more old school. They're talking about the 70s, the 60s, you know, so we're the new wave. So you gotta wear your sunglasses, have some fun. It's okay. You know, you won't get judged. It's all right. You know, Dan, you're looking phenomenal, kid. I need a mic.
You too, buddy. You
You
too.
know, Gib, thank you for coming on. Hey, B Club Sportswear. You can get 2
Check it out.
jersey for only $45. Home and away jersey, only $45 per player.
Keep crushing it, Omar.
Thank you, my brother.
Yep.
Much love. Thank you, everyone,
And,
tuning in.
next week, we're going to have on Nate Charette, the president of the Cranberry Baseball League. And I think we're taking off the 29th for the holiday. And then to start the new year, January 5th, the one and only Chris Dean.
Christopher Dean.
Chris Dean will be on the show.
New Hall of Fame.
That should be a good one.
The new semi-pro baseball Hall of Fame.
BMBL Hall of Fame.
BMBL Hall of Fame. And we got a couple things we want to talk about, so I'm going to hit him up.
One of my former teammates.
One of your former teammates.
Spartans, right.
One of my former teammates a couple of times.
Well, he's played on every team, so.
Yeah, he's been on every team. Did he do MMA before? I think he used to do MMA and shit. Well, so he says. We're going to find out.
Sunglasses are
Jono,
dope.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jono. We gotta get again. Hey guys, you want to come on? You know, let's have some fun with this. You know, baseball is gonna come sooner than you think. You know, so let's have some fun with it in the wintertime. Soon in a couple weeks, guys are gonna start getting to practices. You know, and send us some content. Maybe you know we can start spreading shit. You know, and stuff like that, and working more together, guys. So thank you very mucho.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next Sunday, Gib. Thanks again.
It's fun.
Maybe we'll have you on again sometime. But thank you guys for watching. And we will see you next week. Same time, same place.
Yes, sir.
Have a good night.